They have hot coals here, which makes sense. They like their barbecue.
I've got actually, if we want to start with something kind of funny, I've got some puns, Korean puns that I pulled up, and I wanted to share them with you guys because I know you love
Puns are always
puns.
fun.
Yeah,
Well, you're
as
you're
much
the
as I
pun guy,
do.
but you've pulled me into them. My wife actually taught me a really recent Korean pun, but it requires Korean ability, which is pretty awesome though.
Yeah, some of these I didn't know actually what the I didn't get them. But I'll do the ones that you guys can get. They'll be pretty easy.
Try and
So
tell me
what
the other ones. Maybe I'll get it. I'm curious. Test me later, but start with the easy
yeah,
ones.
I'll test you later. You'll get them for sure, but for me it was beyond my ken. Um what country has four arms?
Ah, I got this one.
You got it.
Nepal.
I'm. What's that?
Nepal.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Do we need to explain this for our listeners? I think our listeners probably know Korea well enough that ne is
Well,
four.
Nepal literally means four arms.
Yeah,
Pai means
four
arms.
arms.
So
Okay.
yeah.
What do vampires drink in the morning? To get their
Uh,
day
this
started.
this one's also a common joke for anyone who's learned Korean.
These are so stupid.
Yeah, anyone who's spoken any Korean would be able to guess because how do you like what do most people drink in the morning is coffee,
Oh, Kopi.
There you
right?
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm
but
dense. I'm just
yeah,
dense. So I can't,
yeah, because the Korean pronunciation for
took me
coffee
a
is
solid minute.
coffee, but it's an ah sound, not the o sound,
Right.
kopi,
Copy,
and
copy.
and
Yeah.
and kopi means like a bloody nose, kopi.
It's also
So it's
gross.
yeah, so it's a
Yeah, that
very
is gross.
small.
Yeah. Nose blood to
Yeah,
start
that's
my
not a good
day.
breakfast. But it's a very
All right.
small vowel sound difference.
They get a little bit harder. What do you call a celebrity carrying your luggage?
Carrying your luggage.
Yeah. See if you can get this one, Kev.
This one I'm not sure offhand.
Okay. Jim Carrey.
Oh, a specific. So yeah. Nice.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
was miles away.
Yeah, that one's hard. That some of these are hard to get. Yeah, Jim for everyone listening is basically luggage.
Yeah.
So Jim
Yeah.
Carrey, Jim Keddy.
What let's see. What is
Here's
an
my favorite.
office
All right, go ahead.
worker's favorite horse?
Favorite horse?
An
Jeez.
office
Office
worker's
worker.
favorite horse.
Jumal.
Yes,
Nice.
that's pretty
Nice.
good.
Had to think
You
about that one for a minute
got that one.
because yeah, well, because you were saying, um, yeah, nice.
Okay.
Because of course for that one, horse is mal, right? And so I was just like, okay, what has mal in it? What are some mal words?
The only one that
Here,
makes
here,
sense is
here, Jack.
weekend.
Here's mine. This might be in your list. What
Okay.
is what's a grandfather's? It doesn't really work unless you use the Korean words for it. Okay, what's a grandfather's favorite type of cash?
The grandfather's
Don'ts.
favorite type of cash.
Don't cast, right?
Oh,
No,
nice.
good guess.
Don't cuss.
I
I
had to
don't know. I
change the
suck at
word a
puns.
little bit. No,
Something
that's a
don't,
pretty
right?
good
It's
guess.
gotta be don't though.
Halmoni.
Ah, how money.
Halmoni
Ah,
means grandmother and sounds like money. Yeah, it's
yeah.
better when you ask that one in Korean because you'd say, their favorite type of don. Because if I said what's their favorite type of money, then you get the connection. So I changed that word a little bit. So it doesn't work quite as
Uh,
well when you do it all in English.
all right, I got two more for you. What's the biggest bean in the world? This one you can get, Ryan. I think you know this one.
The biggest bean.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm dense. I don't get puns.
I mean, something
I like
kong
them. I
was
appreciate I appreciate the humor after the fact, but you saw what happened, man. It took me over a minute. The
I
biggest bean.
I'm like the Alex Trebek syndrome where I get to look smart because I have all the answers, in front of my face. So
Oh,
don't feel bad. I'd be struggling on
something
the other side.
kong
right,
because
but
kong is
like
bean, but
the
King Kong.
biggest
King
King
Kong.
Kong. I was actually about to say it. I was about to say it.
All right,
I'll give it to
last
you. I
one.
trust you.
I
Okay.
missed my opportunity.
What do you call a large piece of tissue?
A large piece of tissue?
Yeah. This is
Fuji-san?
this is great radio too. The
No.
dead silence.
Yeah, it's great. I have to edit this. The sound of
The
stupidity.
sound of just the huge.
Not
Huge.
just Huji.
Oh, just
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I was trying to add something else to it because yeah,
Wow.
okay.
What this all started because of the one that you sent to me, Kevin, that I forgot, and then I sent back to you the picture of the restaurant. It says it's Shakes beer.
Shakes beer. Yeah, like
Yeah.
beer, like the drink. Yeah, so Shakespeare. It sounds like Shakespeare. Shakespeare, the author.
And then there's a picture of William Shakespeare, like on the logo.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
Korean puns. I mean, it's like the Konglish that I had a couple weeks ago here. And Konglish is fun. They get really creative with it sometimes.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. They got a sense of humor about that stuff, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, this kind of dovetails into that article that I shared with you guys. The article about Busan's
Busan?
intentions, yeah, to become an English. What did they say exactly? It was an English friendly.
friendly city.
Yeah,
English friendly to host Expo 2030.
right.
So what are the efforts entail? Like what does that what does it mean to be English friendly? I mean, I could make some guesses, but specifically, what are they thinking of doing?
So they put a roadmap together, and it says, let's see here. They have 3 English villages. So do you guys know what those are? The English villages?
Those are for kids, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or is it? Yeah, I've
it's
seen
like
those part-time jobs. I've never worked at them, but I know they're out there.
It's like I mean, it's almost like a really, really fancy set. You know what I mean? For it's like got like a McDonald's, and like it looks like a legit McDonald's. And then
When
they
I was
have
in-
foreigners. Did you do that
Yeah.
before? Oh, you've done it.
No, when I was in Busan ages ago, my first time in Korea before I left and came back, I worked with some people when this was a newer idea, and they were trying to do it throughout public schools. So you'd have like just trying to set up wherever you'd have interactions. So if the kids are going through a cafeteria line or something, they would just be like, hey, pretend that this is all, you know, an English speaking zone. And it was well intentioned, but real. I mean, this is a long time ago, so the resources to do something like this just weren't there.
There was
So
no
you have-
set. There's like a paper hat though. You can,
Right,
you
and
can put
then
that on, and yeah.
and this is with like children, and most of the adults, when I say most, I mean like all of them, don't really speak English, so they're all phoning it in. And some of the kids actually speak better English. You know, it was just sort of like cool idea after you have some resources to do it. So this sounds like an evolution of it. They called it the same thing, English Village. So I bet it's maybe the same.
It must be working because they're building like several more. So they have like 3, and then they're going to have like 6, I think. They're going to add. So there's a budget of like $5 million to kind of beef up certain things, and that's one of the things on their list is to.
So what can you do in the English Village? Like what's there?
That's a good question. I know that they have a fast food restaurant.
Isn't it just like there's like a fast food restaurant, there's like an airport, there's like just random little things, and for the kids, like you go into the airport and you buy a plane ticket, but it's all there's all foreigners dressed up as, you know, airport workers and fast food
Yeah, it
workers
sounds
and...
exactly like it. That's hilarious. So it's evolved since 2007.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
What else are they going to do? So I think other things that they were going to do was try to make it more comfortable for English speakers. So I think more signage will be in English.
I mean, Korea's already got quite a bit of signage in English, honestly. Like in terms of official things, I mean, all street signs are in English and Korean. You know, like subway signs are all in English and Korean. You don't get like store signs, but that's individual businesses. So what more would they do?
I guess maybe just smaller places where they don't have it. I guess they will just, you know, beef it up a little bit.
Yeah,
They,
maybe it's just
yeah.
on a smaller scale. Like I think I see what you're saying, Kev. Like if you look at like green traffic signs and
Mm,
stuff, usually there's like a romanization,
yep.
right?
Right.
And I think in Busan you actually get, is there Japanese and Chinese as well? I don't really pay attention to it. But
On subway signs here, they do have that. Even in Seoul, they've got
yeah,
Japanese and Chinese for
but
the
think
subway
about
signs.
like some of the more like smaller scale stuff that's missing. Like I'm trying to think of like where you'd see it. If you look at, I don't know, when you're crossing a street and there's the button to push,
Mm.
like for the either the light or you know, like for deaf people, whatever.
It's actually
Um,
not for the light, but we've all made
right,
that mistake
right.
when we
But
first came
the
here.
yeah, but the text. I'm just trying to think of like small text somewhere. That's the first thing that came to mind when I'm walking
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
I don't drive much, so that's like something that would be in my vision as I'm crossing a street. I'm looking. Oh, there's
Hmm.
a button right there. What is that thing? And there's always a little plaque on it, and it's always in Korean. Like little things like that, maybe, or like a fire extinguisher. I don't know. Like
Well,
Yeah,
here's the
they don't say fire
second.
extinguisher. It's obvious what it is, but you know.
Yeah. The second goal is, well, here I'll go in. I'll do the order of the article here. The second one was to provide free English class education so that those willing to learn it can do so conveniently. So more public free English education. So
Wow.
for
I
for
wonder
the
that
like our native English speaking listeners out there, maybe there's more work now
that's
available,
what I was
right?
just thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
like because if they're going to be offering free English, that means there's a lot of government programs
Hmm.
which will
Yeah.
be hiring English speakers to teach, which could be really interesting. I mean, government programs are always strange to work for. They've got their own regulations and things, but it
Right, but
could
Yeah.
be a
that's
good job.
massive when you think of how expensive you know, private lessons and I guess it depends on the type of classes they're offering. If there's going to be 50
Yeah.
kids in one room, then I mean it's not, the quality kind of drops off. But if it's a smaller, you know, like a lot of Hagwons, like if it's going to be two kids with one teacher, five kids with one teacher, that's an expensive
Well, it says,
thing for a lot
I'd
of
guess
people
the
to
article just
afford.
says like for those willing to learn. So it's probably not going to be kids so much. It'd probably be more like for adults center for people
Oh,
who that's my just assumption. Um, like, 'cause I can't imagine that they're going to just because they'd have to be careful, of course, like you were saying, for kids. If they suddenly just had all English education is free, then all Hagwons just suddenly go out of business because
yeah.
parents aren't
I mean,
going to
that's why
send
I
their
said,
kids
wow, it's a
to
crazy
Hagwon.
concept.
So, it would probably be, like your Hagwon is still going to be a higher quality English. Actually, maybe these wouldn't actually be for native English speakers as well, because we are more expensive, right? Government isn't
Yeah.
isn't going to pay for the most. They don't pay for the best thing. It's always the cheapest version of whatever they can get. So it would just be like, the more simple English, like for the English, the free programs, my guess is that it would be like, introduction English, like, if you meet a foreigner on the street, how do you help them give directions and how do you, you know, order food and things like that
No, I could see
to,
it
to
also
start
like,
with.
yeah, like thinking about like the competition from like the hog ones and like the economy, and you don't want to, you know, damage that as well.
Mm,
I really am suspicious if something like this would be age locked. I mean, that'd be pretty easy to do. Like people that are in, you know, working age, professional plus student. So like everybody 40 years old and younger, they're all trying to acquire communication skills, right? Because it's for their career, it's for their life. But people over the age of 40, maybe over the age of 50,
mm,
what's the motivation to learn English? And maybe that's why it's worded that way, people willing. Like,
right.
and that way you're not cutting into the other economy. And then if the initiative is part of it's, or if it's part of the initiative to Englishify Busan, that's a great way to do it. You're going to get your older generation able to speak English a little bit. That can create a lot of comfort for international travelers, I would think.
Mm. Yeah,
That's one of the
I
more
would
striking
imagine
things
it's going to be
when
more
when
for
I came
older
to Korea.
groups.
You can, it was almost originally, it was almost like a guarantee. If you see like an older person, it's like, yeah, there's probably no chance
Mm.
that they're be able to speak English, you know, when you first arrive. Whereas, you know,
Except you get that one or two older dudes who like comes up to you and they're just like, "Oh, American."
super
Uh,
stoked. Yeah.
and
They've
they're
got like
very
Your
happy to
best
talk to you.
friend like
the
that.
hat with
Yeah.
the chevron on the hat, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So the third goal, this one is interesting because this is like this is what you guys were talking about just now. they're going to survey local foreign residents in Busan
Hmm.
so that they don't suffer any language-based inconveniences. So they're going to for
So
the
ask
first
people.
survey is what are your biggest pet peeves about living in Busan? And
Hmm.
so, and then also they're going to educate the transport drivers, like bus drivers, so that they have basic English.
Okay.
And so they can kind of help you. So if you get on a bus, you can ask the bus driver, like, does this go to,
Mm.
you know, at whatever this place? And they might be able to help you. Although it's hard. It's hard for me to imagine like a 50-year-old bus driver suddenly saying like, yeah, let's learn English too, on top of having to drive my route,
But if it's incentivized correctly,
Yeah, yeah,
the drivers get bonus points on their reviews, or they get some incentive.
yeah.
I think it's possible. I think it's an interesting idea, because where's the rehearsal and practice going to happen? And then
Yeah.
maybe the bus driver doesn't use English for a month, and then a foreigner shows up, it's like, yo, what's up? It's like, whoa, what? I think that might be hard, but maybe not. Maybe
Yeah.
there's something big like this, they're probably comparing it to another country that did this. Maybe France did this at some point, or I don't know,
Well, I think like Costco has done this. Like I went to Costco and I remember one of the like, sample ladies
yeah.
was
Mm.
obviously they had done some kind of like English training, because she was really, really excited to speak English to me. But like what happens to me when I'm, with my limited Korean is that I get nervous. And I think she got kind of like a little bit like overstimulated. Like she couldn't find the words, so it was just like the same, like, hi, how are you today? I'm fine, thank you, that kind of thing. And it was like I
Yeah.
was happy to play along, but it got a little bit awkward or whatever, because it couldn't go any deeper than that.
I
um
know the standoff that Jack's talking about. This is like one of my favorite things traveling. Like,
mm,
if you know like the basics of a language and you're trying to like deploy it, and the other person knows the basics of your language, and immediately when they see you struggle, they decide they're going to rescue the conversation. So, but they can't, because they're in the same boat as you.
right.
So then they struggle. So you're both speaking each other's language, but
Poorly.
like, it's just like magnets on the opposite, like on the same
Right.
end. You're just like, huh, I can't get this
Mm.
to work.
Jump, your boat's sinking, jump into mine.
Yeah,
It's oh man.
love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's fun. Like I was kind of excited, like I was kind of it was charming how excited she was about using English. So I was kind of happy to play along and try to like the best I could to like, give the
Mm.
whatever, kind of pre-memorized response that she had learned in the one or two classes that she'd taken.
Mm.
But I just wonder, like, I guess this is like posits a larger question, is that do you think there are things that you can do? Like, can you unorganically create an English space in a place? Or does it have to come from the like a kind of grassroots level? You know what I mean? It's like, do you think, because they've tried this so many times that it seems like it always just fades out. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if you're
Yeah, and
not,
like I was saying, when I
yeah,
was in Busan, I was looking at this stuff academically, trying to understand if it was actually effective. It didn't look like it was at all. And I would say, yeah, I'd be pretty pessimistic about it. But on the other hand, think about international schools. Like, all three of us are professors, and we've all had a student who's in your class many times who speaks like English as if they're from LA, or like they're
right.
from, Kansas, whatever. They're just, their accent is pitch perfect American or Canadian, or British for that matter. And I mean, that's like, those are the kind of the three you'll hear. If you
Mm.
ask those kids, I mean, often is the case, hey, yeah, I grew up in America. I mean, they're basically Americans. Or I grew up in England. But you can also find kids like that they just went to international school, and they were
Mm. For sure.
in Beijing,
Indonesia, yeah,
they were
yeah.
in Indonesia, they were in Korea. International schools, they're sitting like a bubble, right? They're surrounded by the native culture. And when you leave that campus, that high school, you're going back into the other language world. So I mean, that obviously is successful, but how intensive is that school? you
Mhm.
know I looked at this in Chicago before I came to Korea to work, and there were programs. I think we talked about this before. Um, so they wanted to take uh, they would take a school and they would staff it completely in Spanish, but like everything, like all the signs would change, everything, and it was all
Yeah.
Spanish for one semester, and then they'd flip English for the other semester. So it was this intense immersion project, and it had positive results. It was really new. It was some pilot program that I observed when I was there. But I think so. What I'm trying to say is I think it is a possibility, but the amount of intensity compared to what I saw when the word English Village was in my view in 2007, and I saw what they were doing, it was that was futile. I mean,
Yeah,
absolutely
and this also
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
just to make
yeah.
this is just to make Busan friendly, English friendly.
Right, he gets you right. It's
futile.
not supposed to be like an English city. I think
Right. That's it.
what
Yeah,
was
that's a
that?
good point. Maybe it doesn't have to be so intense.
Yeah. I just reminds
Yeah.
me of like when I was in eighth grade, I took Spanish and I was part of this like pilot program where the Spanish speaker was trying to do that, what you're talking about, Ryan, but like in the classroom level, even smaller microcosm of it. So in the classroom, everything was Spanish and he only spoke Spanish, the teacher. It was that very like, kind of Chomsky nativist approach to language learning. And man, we wore this poor guy down to the point where one day he just slams his book on the floor. He goes, "Fuck," and just that was like the first English word he spoke. And then the principal had to have like a conversation with him and have like you're gonna have to go back to the traditional approach. And he came in just completely defeated, and he's like, "All right, I guess we're just gonna." I'm going to speak some English and then I'm going to teach you some Spanish. And yeah, it was just, what nasty little eighth graders we were to just completely destroy this poor guy's, soul.
Kids that age are pretty evil.
That's what eighth graders do, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Poor guy. So yeah, I would hate that. I mean, I don't think that'll happen in Busan, but I think, yeah. So if they keep it like,
Because again,
maybe
it's
they're
just English
reframing it
friendly.
better. Yeah, with like the friendly
It's
aspect is better than saying like we're gonna make it into an English city, like English
no,
speaking
that's
city.
crazy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's that's not part of it at all. It's just making it more friendly for English. So for everybody out there listening, we've mentioned recently that the exchange rate, if you're coming from the States, is very, very beneficial to you. And
Not
Busan
as good as
also
it was
will.
2 weeks ago, though.
Whew, thank
Yeah,
God.
ricocheted hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so come on
Real
over to
cheap.
Busan where you can buy some cheap meat and order it in English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's still good though. It's still really good. All
What
right.
other initiatives are they
Oh
what are
yeah.
parts of the
So
initiative? Are they
there's one
doing
last
foreign
one that
hiring?
let me see here. The last goal is to strengthen English skills of city government officials, creating an English fluent workforce and supporting those interested in breaking the language barrier.
That actually makes the most sense, and that probably would be the hardest thing for most foreigners to deal with is because like I mean if you go to a hospital, 9 out of 10 times you can find a doctor that speaks English, right? If
Mhm.
you're going to a fast food restaurant, you don't really need that much English. But when you go into a government office, even just to get like really simple things, you just need some random paperwork to get your visa straightened out, or you want to get your license, renewed or whatever. There often there's no English ability at all in those government offices. And so I can see that being the hardest thing, and that would be the best for the people living there. That's interesting though, because most of those people wouldn't be helpful for tourists,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Tourists
Yeah.
don't really deal with government officials other than customs. Like you never go to the police station, you're not trying to fill out paperwork. You don't need any of that done. But if you're living there, then you do. So I wonder now that you've mentioned that, like this roadmap for an English friendly city, is it designed to bring foreign investors and foreigners to live there, or is it designed as a tourist
That's what I
destination?
was asking.
Well, it's the World Expo is the
So it
ostensibly is
is,
the reason for it, but I mean there's got to be
which
other
that is a
reasons.
tourist thing.
Well, that's the interesting thing is because like when I think of I can only compare like Korea and Thailand because those are the only two places I've lived. But when I lived
Mm.
in Thailand, you definitely have this split between, like, I would say, what do you think it is? Like 95.5, 97, 3%, 3% of people are there to live and work, and the other
Mm.
97% are just tourists, right? But Korea seems like it'd be a lot more closer to, like, I don't know, 60-40 or something, maybe 60% tourists, 40% of the foreign nationals are staying here and working. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
I mean, I
I
would
have
say
no
so.
idea
I
how to
mean,
make
Korea
that
Korea has
definitely.
not been really a tourist place. When I
mhm,
arrived, I mean, that's how I would describe it to anybody back home. They're asking me about it. I would say um, it's safe. You can come. You can have a good time, but there's not really the infrastructure you'd have like in a place like Southeast Asia, which
yeah.
also relies on the tourism as a huge chunk of.
Mm.
Isn't that like a
Oh, it's a
huge
huge
part
part
of
of their
like
GDP,
Thailand's
right?
GDP?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like it's all tourism.
Well, do you guys remember
So
the
yeah,
K-pop Sunbays when we interviewed those girls?
Yeah, of
The
course.
the
yeah,
the one girl, the one main Sunbay, the one that was talking about the old school first gen, she even was so obsessed with K-pop, she didn't take a vacation here. She moved here. She literally got a job. Like, that was her, it was like a
yeah.
vacation slash job, you know? So even for like a really adamant fan of like
Mm.
K-pop, they still, oh, I'll just work for a year instead of visiting. So I mean, that's kind of
Mm.
interesting. Yeah. It's not I don't know. Yeah, it's not like super touristy. Um
Right. Tourism definitely is a thing, but it's yeah, not as much of a travel destination as other countries in the area.
Mm.
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot more
Yeah,
in
agreed.
in Seoul. And I could be a little biased because in 2019 I moved next to Seoul Station where I am right now in Huam. So I'm kind of city, I don't know if city center, Seoul even has a center. I'm in an older part, kind of the financial district, but I mean, I don't know, can you say that about like
So you're kind of like in between Yoido and Seoul, right?
no,
Station,
I'm I'm
something like
at I'm
that,
at
or
Seoul Station. Seoul
oh,
Station's
okay,
like
okay.
I'm looking at
I'd
uh
say financial center would be more Gangnam area. That's more,
right, yeah,
yeah,
like but that's also newer. So like Gangnam's from like what, the 60s, 70s, 80s.
maybe. No,
Yeah,
not not that
a lot of
old.
it's
Maybe
really
maybe
spanking
80s,
new.
80s, 90s.
Yeah. But anyway, so whenever I hang out a lot in that area over towards Gangnam. But whenever I go that way, I'll take buses typically, not the subway, and I go north around Namsan, around the central mountain here in Seoul, and then down. So it's like I do like a fish hook around. It
Hmm.
just is the most efficient way to get
Yeah,
that way because I'm going more east versus just straight south from where I'm at right now to get there. Anyway, when I do that, I'm taking basically a tour of all of that downtown area. So um, it's like not all the way to the Cheonggyecheon, but like up north that way. So when I'm going down these main areas, I see more and more and more foreigners, but particularly I'm seeing more older foreigners versus seeing people that are like our age or younger. I'm seeing different demographics that are clearly, not clearly, but you would assume are not working. You see like people that are 60 years old, 70 years old, and they got, backpacks and cameras and children, Uh, so I think tourism has been picking up, I would think, just
yeah.
based on impressions.
I
And the
went to
Korean brand
Jeonju.
is bigger than it has ever
Yeah.
been, of course, just in general.
I went to Jola a couple weeks ago with my family, and there are a bunch of like Jeonju, the city has a is a really cool vibe. Like, it's very
Yeah.
different than even Gyeonggi or Seoul. I was kind of surprised. It almost reminded me a little bit of like Japan, in a weird way. It's cleaner and just chill, and yeah, anyway, it's really a
The
cool
food's
city.
excellent. Food's excellent
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
town.
We definitely had a Jeonju bibimbap and tried a bunch of
Of
different
course.
stuff. But
Yeah.
there's like youth hostels in this area that we stopped, this kind of touristy area, and I saw they could have been on Khao San Road in Thailand. Like, backpacks, dirty hair, the clothes they looked like, well, we used to call them when
Young
I lived in
backpackers.
Thailand, we called them Eurotrash hippie backpackers, but that's pretty rude. But yeah, it was, the kind
They're
of
probably
had
American, not Euro.
not, yeah, sorry about the Euro part. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it
You're,
was
you're
just
sorry
like,
about the Euro part, not the trash part. Come
no,
on,
the
Jack.
trash part is I'm fine with. Yeah, the
Sorry, I
trash
called you
hippie
European, bro.
backpackers is, yeah. I hold
Oh.
my position on that. No, no, but yeah, it was just odd because it was just kind of like, it was jarring because it was like, oh, I haven't seen this since I was in Thailand, and now this is here.
Hmm.
So obviously there is like tourism. So I could be
Yeah,
way
I mean,
off with my numbers.
eventually
Yeah,
the Banana Pancake Trail.
right.
I Do you know this expression?
No, I thought you just made that up, but I get
No,
it.
I think it's
Yeah.
for listeners. Many of you probably know this. If not, and you're interested in traveling in Asia and Southeast Asia specifically, or East Asia, it's a good phrase to know. The Banana Pancake Trail is our destinations in general throughout Asia that are easily accessible and kind of haunted by foreigners, usually like young 20-year-olds that are, a little more in it for the socializing and the partying aspect, in the comfort versus getting off the beaten trail. Like if I was to include like one of my favorite destinations, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, I don't think was part of the Banana Pancake Trail until more recently, like after 2010, because of like, war and things like that.
Mhm.
In 2008, I knew some people that had just traveled there, and they were saying how that was starting to redevelop again, post the conflict. So if I was in Sri Lanka and you're down on the southern coast, that's part of the Banana Pancake Trail. But if you go up to like Anuradhapura in the north, I would say that's off the Banana Pancake Trail. Thailand, you have like, Chiang Mai, the Gulf. That's the Banana Pancake Trail. Phuket, nah, it's more like luxury resorts.
Okay,
You
I
could
see.
still say it's kind of like part of that, but that's not where the 20-year-olds are going to find cheap beer. Um, exactly.
So Khao San
Uh,
Road might be
that's the
the
epitome. That's
Rome.
like
That's like
that.
the center of the banana
Yeah.
pancake. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they invented
That's
the
the
banana pancake. Yeah.
yeah, that's the beginning of the Banana Pancake Trail. Maybe it's
Right.
House on Road. Um, so it's a good word and a good reference if you're planning trips. And I think it
Yeah.
also implies like where the tourism is. I think I could see Korea getting on the Banana Pancake Trail now,
Yeah.
finally, with
Yeah.
places like Jeonju, um, or yeah, Busan. I think Busan is just a beautiful city. I love it down there.
Yeah,
Um,
no, for sure. And with global warming, it's oddly becoming more subtropical with its weather patterns anyway. So, I mean, that'll be another and there are beaches and there are, you know what I mean? Like it's totally set up to be on the Banana Pancake Trail. And then you add the K-pop element into it. It's like, man, it could
mhm.
be a very enticing place to travel to. So,
Yeah, and you got cheap
yeah.
flights down to Jeju, Songjeong Beach, and Busan is.
Yep.
I think they have surf. I mean, they've always had surf, but I don't know how much of it was developed. But that's 4 seasons. I'm pretty sure you can surf there
Yeah.
4 seasons.
The only thing that's,
Um,
oh, sorry. Yeah, I totally agree
go
with you.
ahead.
The only thing that I think is a little bit like little dangerous about Korea is the expensive versus inexpensive. You know what I mean? Like you could go into a bar and they if you go into the wrong one, they'll, you could be paying like $200-300 for like, a bottle. If you don't know what you're doing, you could accidentally
Yeah,
walk into some very expensive situations, and then there are other
yeah.
places where you could just get really cheap, drinks and you know what I mean. But if you don't know the difference, it can be a little bit like staying in a cheaper hotel versus like the, Hilton or whatever. The price difference
Mhm.
is like
And you
astronomical,
won't
you
you
know?
won't always see it in especially in Seoul. Like one of my friends owns a sulji, like a drinking establishment. So it's a place where you get
Yeah.
on anju, like just basic. He's a fantastic cook. So he makes like these little small dishes, and then he has kind of exquisite types of alcohol and whatever. Well, you might walk in there and ask for a tap beer, and maybe that tap beer looks really similar. And in his place, it's clean, but it's small. He's just got like I think 4 tables and a counter. I mean, it's
Right.
tiny and it looks simple, whatever, but he'll pour you a glass or a tap of beer. It's going to be probably like 2-3x what you're going to pay if you're in a, you know, equivalent kind of looking place, by you know, someone who doesn't know. I think that's a problem you would find here. That's not going to happen to you if you're like in Thailand. I feel like you would see it, you
Mhm.
know, if you're going to spend a lot, it's kind of
No, you have to go to the certain area.
environment
Like you
implies
have to
it.
go to
I don't know.
Sukhumvit. You have to go to, you know, the certain places where you walk in, you're gonna know that it's like, okay, this is gonna be more expensive than, you know, Khao San Road or whatever. You know,
I
it's
kind
Yeah, I
of want to
think
get the
I've
most recent like Lonely Planet for Seoul just to see what it says for travelers,
I'm
actually.
curious too, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
where do
think
they
in
tell
general, I would
people to
say
go?
traveling, I've been stung more often with tabs here, and I live here. And even now, even being like aware where I am, I have to double check before we like, you know, sit down and just start ordering stuff. I think it's easier to get stung here. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's a good expression to use, getting stung,
oh,
because you don't pay attention, you're not vigilant. And when you're traveling, you're dumb. You're a baby, you know. You don't know
They're
anything
not really
about the
paying attention.
country. You just kind
Yeah.
of, you know, that looks cheap, that looks expensive. No, don't go by the outward appearance, you know. Um, just because it's a small little hole in the wall doesn't mean it's probably gonna be more expensive, you know. Um, that's the weird thing. Okay, so just going back to that like last point, which was like the government officials. Do you guys think that would work? Like I had this idea a couple like several minutes ago, but I wanted to save it till towards the end. Based on like the kind of hierarchy in Korea, do you think like that could work if because you know as you go up the food chain in you know everything is vertical, right, within like the government offices and stuff. If you as soon as you hit that one level of the person who's like, I'm not doing this English thing, and their rank is above everybody else, then everything below that is it's basically done, it's kind of squashed. And so I feel like, is it possible to even do that, you know?
But I mean, I think that one person at the top who's saying, I don't want to do this English thing, they'll still make their underlings do it.
Oh, you think so? They'll just
Yeah, they're just like, I
okay.
don't want to do it. But those are the people that doesn't matter because those people at the top are not the people that I'm going to be dealing with when I go to a government office to get my paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I guess it's possible. I was thinking more of like, not that I'm not going to do this, but this whole thing is dumb, so I'm not going to make anybody else do it either. But you're right.
I
It
wouldn't
could
be
go
too worried
both
about that.
ways. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the the idea, like the result from trying to do this type of initiative, I think it's pretty obvious, like the benefits. And especially if
Mhm.
you're in like a government office and you know you're there because you know it's a kind of a social welfare type of job position, you're looking at, you know, I mean, if you're honest about your job and everything, I mean, or you'd be replaced. Like, I don't know, it just seems like such a simple thing. Like, um, uh, Korea in general, the whole world is becoming globalized, and you know, Korea is very interested in that. My impression since I've been here, so I think it would be kind of a common train of thought already that people are on. I don't think
Yeah,
it'll be much.
English is something, very few people think English is a bad idea in Korea either.
Yeah,
And probably those at
Yeah.
the top, if they're like, I can get free English education, sign me up. Like they'll go for
yeah.
it.
Or like what Kev's
So
saying, like even if they have like a bad feeling about it, they're still going to see it as like a positive initiative and make their underlings do it. You know,
Yeah, I guess you make good points. I guess I was just
that's
thinking
my
like,
guess.
it just seems hard to do these kind of like these initiatives when everything is kind of structured in a hierarchical way. I think it seems like you could get a lot more interference kind of on the way up the ladder. But I guess like you said, you know, maybe just like whatever, I'm not going to do it, but you guys are doing it because I
Yeah.
said so.
It almost makes
Yeah.
it easier, I think, because of the hierarchy, because just you have that one person at the top who's like, we're doing this, and everyone below is
That's
like,
true.
yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
that's
doing that.
true. Yeah.
And they don't really have a choice in the matter. So now I think I'm curious to see what happens with Busan. The expos, but what does it say? 2030?
Yeah, 2030.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
it's
I mean
only
that's good.
7 years.
That's quite a few years still away to Englishize the basics of Busan and get people on board. It'll be interesting to see what it's like then.
Yeah. I mean, it does give me like a kind of more comfort when I hear about these things. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I sometimes wonder if like is English education fading? Are people kind of getting sick of it? Um
Mm.
is it becoming more of like just do it on your own? Don't, we're not going to really create an infrastructure that supports it that much anymore. So when I read about these things, I try not to get too hopeful or whatever because I like to keep my kind of pessimistic mind about it a little bit, just so I don't get too so I stay vigilant. But it's just I don't know. Do you guys ever worry that we're becoming redundant? Like in our jobs, we'll just
No,
I don't know.
no, not at
Okay.
all. I
Okay.
think as far as work for specifically people like us that are working with ESL in Korea, the bigger threat is the shrinking of the demographics because there's not, I mean, we have like the lowest birth rate on the planet.
Yeah.
Um, that's going to, it has impacted things like our department. I think we at one point were twice the size we are now, but those types of adjustments, I don't know. I'm not, I don't, I see, I've always been hopeful that this English mania that is here, this billion-dollar industry, I've always been hopeful that it would refocus itself. And I want to believe that's what I'm seeing, where there's they're lowering the threshold, the ceiling for proficiency, because we don't need everybody speaking like the Queen of England. We don't need, like, I don't know, it's a bad example. I'm trying to say
I
I
know
don't
what you're
think
saying. Yeah.
we don't need people with, you know, exquisite grammar skills. It's a functional thing. We want to be able to communicate across cultures, and it's an essential thing in the modern world to be able to communicate across cultures. But at the same time, we don't want to lose people's native languages. We don't want to steamroll it. We want to be able to maintain that. And I talk about this with my classes. It's one of my final discussions. We'll get into it actually in the next couple of weeks here, about language loss. It's one of the it's a topic that you guys have from chapters, I think. But I want to be optimistic that what's happening is there's a refocusing of this mania into a more practical application. People understanding that, we want to be able to communicate with foreigners, people from other places, and that's good enough. And I feel like that's happening, but I'm also not Korean, and I'm not 20 years old worrying about taking my OPIC test.
Right.
I don't know what the companies want. I don't know what the schools require, if that's ever been reduced yet.
Well, I think Korean and English have something in common. And the thing they have in common is that even through Japanese colonization, the Hangul kept it survived. Like they were never going to be able to stomp it out. Elites, aristocrats had to speak both languages or whatever, or speak in government you spoke Japanese, I suppose. But even now, like within the last like generation or so, Dak Toritang has changed to Dak Bokumtang. Is that right? It used to be the Japanese name. It
Hmm.
is now
I think
is
I've seen
the
it.
Korean name. It has come even just within like one like 10-year period or 15-year period. Um, the Korean is coming back. It's just too strong and too organic, and the same thing with English. Like during
Like we're
the
changing it to freedom
Norman
fries.
invasion or whatever, like everyone spoke French. French was the Queen's language, but the English just survived underneath with the peasants and the people, and so
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces that could move around in the next 100 years. I had a discussion with a group of students that studied languages, and they had some insights. I mean, their idea was that in the future, Korean speakers population will be reduced in Korea. There will be a massive replacement with English, because even now many children, their grammar skills, their grammar knowledge, I shouldn't say skill, not like productive skill, but their knowledge of English grammar is often higher than Korean, right? They can produce
okay.
Korean more easily, but they're
Yeah.
studying more intensively the English grammar. And they think that that's going to lead to some replacement, but you're still going to have a sizable population that is fully capable of Korean language. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
And that will be kind of you don't know what that'll result in. Will that demographic be considered antiquated, or will that demographic be considered like a higher language,
Yeah.
or more rare and more exotic or something? It's a fun thought to experiment. But I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be, I mean, languages are liquid, right? There's going to be changes coming.
What's just based on your, just anecdotally, what is your what do you think about the like Korean diaspora? Like how long do they hold on to the Korean language, would you say? One generation, two generations? It's in America, it seems to like the original language, the immigrant parents' language seems to get snuffed out at least by the second generation. It seems
Totally.
like,
yeah,
it's just there's a lot of Polish food in Chicago, but not a lot of people speaking Polish. You know what I mean? A lot of Norwegians and Finnish in Minnesota, but not a lot of people speaking the Finnish language or Norwegian. So yeah, it just seems like America. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to think about, but this is getting way off topic. I can see Kevin, his head is boiling right now, steam coming out of his ears. All right, I'll bring it back. Bring it back to
It's a good
Korea.
digression.
Did you guys see that? I sent that photo of the ice cream. They have Korea selling a black pepper, otogi pepper flavored ice cream.
Still better than Oreo pizza.
Yeah, I know. I feel like mine is kind of a. I mean, it's still possible. What do you think about that though? Pepper flavored ice cream.
That actually doesn't sound too bad. I'm curious.
No, that I
black
think could work.
pepper, like the smell of black pepper,
Yeah,
it can be kind of like a fresh kind of smell.
I mean, it
I'm
doesn't
gonna try
bother
it.
me that
Where
much.
can I get it?
Yeah, I mean,
Is
you
this a
can buy
Baskin
it.
Robbins thing?
It's everywhere.
Probably
It's
any
like,
convenience store.
yeah, it's a
It looks
convenience
like
store
the
ice
I
cream.
can just get it
convenience store.
downstairs at the super.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black, is it just like Huchu ice cream?
I'll tell you.
Something like that.
Yeah, Huchu, Sun Huchu. Sun Huchu.
Ryan,
Okay.
go get it. We'll be waiting.
Yeah. Okay, do
Your
a
corner
taste
store's the
test.
closest.
Yeah.
Taste test.
It's just a lot of sneezing in between bites of ice cream, I guess. I don't know.
Just blowing ice
Jack,
cream everywhere.
you're not breathing the pepper. You don't snort ice cream. That's generally not
I
how it
do.
works.
I don't know how you eat ice
Oh,
cream.
we've
but,
gotten really boring
yeah.
with ice cream over here.
Yeah.
It's we get corn ice cream pretty much every time. It's just corn ice cream.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're laughing. It sounds gross, but I've been won over. It's my go-to.
Oh, really? You choose the corn ice cream. Wow.
I choose
Holy
corn.
cow.
Yeah.
Ryan is more
actually
Korean than
real
Kevin now.
pieces of corn in it.
Jeez.
Do you put it on
It's got a
pizza
little
too?
chocolate there. What's that on pizza? I don't like the texture of it on a pizza. I don't. It's kind of gross to me how they pop. I don't know. I love corn. Corn's
Yeah,
delicious.
in your
On
ice
pizza,
cream, that is a long way
yeah.
from the Cobb, my friend. It is a long way from the
It's
Cobb.
true. That is true. But actually, the ice cream comes in a ice cream sandwich casing that is form pressed to look like a cob of corn, and it's
Right.
round, and it's vanilla ice cream with corn. It's not vanilla. I think it's just corn flavor, and it has a strip of chocolate in it. It's magical.
Oof.
Old Susu
Okay.
ice cream. Go find it today.
All right. All right, there we go. That's the challenge, the corn ice cream challenge right here. Either black pepper or corn. Try it.
You can eat those two together with,
All you need is
maybe
some
they make
salt.
some butter.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
butter. Yeah, you could get that too. Butter ice cream.
Just have all your foods in ice cream form.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think that I think we covered everything today. We talked about corn ice cream, travelers in Korea, Busan, of which I've only been once, but I would like to go again. It's a beautiful city, beautiful city.
Kev, when was the
Yeah.
last time you were in Busan? Just real quick.
A decade ago.
Really? Guys,
Hmm.
you got to go back. I was just down there, was it not even 2 months ago? It's changed and it's awesome. I mean, it always was
Hmm.
awesome. It's awesome or
Nice.
such a cool city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out more.
No, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, gents, thanks for another patch. And to our audience out there, thank you for listening. You can find all of our episodes available at our website, thesoulpatch.com. And don't be shy to give us a review in Apple Podcasts. That definitely helps us out a lot when it comes to the charts. And we want to get into more ears out there. So help us out and give us a positive review. And with that, we will catch you next week on the patch. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.